My drive to the temple takes 10 minutes on a good day. On the way, I pass two people living on Sepulveda Boulevard. I don't mean in a house on Sepulveda Boulevard. I mean on the sidewalk on Sepulveda Boulevard. The first is a neatly dressed black gentleman. He has a graying, close-cropped beard. He sometimes seems to stand at attention as the cars come towards him. He's standing on the sidewalk under the underpass, and other times in the morning, he's stretched out neatly on his back. I know because most mornings I go by very slowly. And there's a blanket over his body, and he's trying to get some sleep as the cars fly past. Everything he owns appears to be in a knapsack that I sometimes see slung over his shoulder. He's not begging, he's not ranting with insanity, he's just living, or I should say enduring, on the sidewalk, beneath the freeway, next to a busy road. There's not a speck of debris around him. He keeps the area neat. There's not garbage thrown in the street. There's not graffiti on the wall. It's as if he were waiting for a bus, and if a bus were to stop, he would get right on. And as I drive by, I wonder, what did he do before he was homeless? Did he have a family? Is he a vet? What was his job? How does he handle, I wonder, his hygiene living on the street? Where does he get food? Where does he go on the days that I don't see him there? What happened in his life that he's sleeping on Sepulveda Boulevard, in a place where no human being should spend more than 30 seconds? 3/4 of a mile south, on a good day it takes me 2 minutes, sometimes 20, there's an old woman. She's far too old to be where she is, again, on the sidewalk. I go by slow enough that I can catch her face, and it's kind. It's wrinkled by many years in the sun. She sits in the middle of a pile of possessions, all packed in suitcases or plastic bags, everything she owns, blankets, a pillow. I think she's sitting on a chair from what I can tell. All that should not be on the sidewalk. It should be in a home. That's where it belongs. In drawers, in cabinets, in closets. But all that she owns is piled against the wall of that Whole Foods on Sepulveda. It's a tragic irony if you think about it. The lycra-clad moms and the hipster dads and all of us who have a craving for overpriced smoothies and exotic organics and designer sandwiches and cheeses from all over the earth, we go to get our fix, and she's outside. She's staring blankly at the cars whooshing past. There's nothing to read in her hands. She's not knitting a sweater for her granddaughter like a grandmother should be doing. She's not overwatching CNN like my mother-in-law did. She's not surrounded by loved ones with pictures on the walls like most grandmothers are. What's her life story? She seems to be from Latin America. Is she someone's abuelita? Did she once care for someone's children? Is there someone who loves her and misses her? I don't really need to talk to you about this. In fact, we could probably stop because you all have stories of your own you could tell. And we could just accept it as a character of our city, just like freeways and sunshine and the Hollywood sign and all those things. It's just part of LA. We could avert our gaze as one more person holds out their hands for something at the freeway exit. But then I think of the words of Isaiah that we read every Yom Kippur. Isaiah declares God's desire. This is the fast I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. It's to share your bread with the hungry, to take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, to clothe him, and not to ignore your own kin. Every year we read that, every year. And I believe we can't ignore our city's wretched poor because of Isaiah. We can't turn our backs on the naked because of Isaiah, sleeping in our streets. We can't refuse to share our bread with the hungry. We can't accept this. We can't just take it as a characteristic of our city and say, that's LA. That's the way it's going to be. We can't. Not only is it inhumane, but Isaiah reminds us it's not Jewish. And I'm not telling you this so you'll just wring your hands with me and feel the despair and shake your heads. Because now, I'm telling you this because now, for the first time in the history of this state, in ways we never have before, we have the opportunity to get our cities and our counties and our states unhoused into shelters. Why? Here's what's different. Over the past several years, our state has accumulated vast sums of surplus income, something close to $31 billion. That's a lot of money. On top of that, we expect another $26 billion, and just make sure, billion with a B, from the federal government as part of the stimulus package. $57 billion in monies that are not specifically dedicated for particular services. That's extra money. So we have this rare opportunity to get our cities unhoused into humane living situations. But two things have to be in place for us to succeed. And these are two important things. The first is we have to join with others to raise our voices to demand that a good chunk of that money be spent on housing. Many of those who are raising their voices come from religious traditions because they share those words of Isaiah. Our interfaith partner is called LA Voice. It represents nearly 60 religious organizations across LA County, and it's part of the PICO network that spans the state, bringing together literally thousands of congregations. Together, we can raise our voices with the moral imperative of our religious callings to demand solutions like permanent supportive housing, where people who are mentally ill can be supported or are physically ill can be supported and guided and sustained, to subsidies for low-income housing. All those folks who live in campers know how to make it work. They just could use a solid place to live. An incentive and clearances for builders to build that housing. And trust me, if we don't speak up loudly and clearly, the lobbyists will, and the money will go to all kinds of things that none of us would want it to go for. So I'm asking you, this is a real ask, if you'll join with me to be a part of representing this congregation's voice. And if you're listening at home, same thing. I want you to email me. I want you to keep your eyes open for Center for Tikkun Olam mailings that say there's going to be an action, there's going to be a rally, there's going to be an opportunity to appear before City Hall. We need to raise our voices and show up. And now here's the second ask. And this one's a little tougher, and there's going to be some resistance, but I'm going to put it out there because this is personal. But it's really important, maybe even more important. You've got to let the units be built, even when they're a few blocks from your house. You've got to let the units be built. You can't be part of those voices who are shouting, "Not in my backyard." You can't. I went to Notre Dame High School shortly before the pandemic. Council member David Rue was holding a town hall. He was seeking to build permanent supportive housing in my neighborhood. It was ugly. He was shouted down. He didn't even get a chance to speak. He was cursed. "Not in my neighborhood," they shouted. "Don't reduce the value of my house. Not near my kid's school," they said, as if there wasn't a homeless person sleeping on the corner by their kid's school already. And I was there with too few to say yes in my neighborhood. Better in homes than on streets. But there weren't enough of us. Those units never got built. David Rue got voted out. And the new city council person has done zero. Nothing. So now we have to stand up and say yes in my neighborhood. Yes to supportive, managed, safe housing. Yes to the housing of veterans. Yes to the housings of grandmothers. Yes to the housing of mentally ill. Yes to the housing of drug addicted. And just yes to the housing of those who are just merely down on their luck. Because if we don't do that, they're going to be camping in those campers along Sepulveda Boulevard or in Westwood or wherever they camp. Because the truth is that a housed person is more likely to be healthy and clean and supported and safe, and all of our neighborhoods will be improved if that's the case. And ultimately, it will raise our housing values in this city because there won't be so many homeless people walking through the streets of our neighborhoods. And ultimately, it will keep us all much safer because people will be cared for and protected. So rarely in our lifetimes are we provided with the chance that we have before us in the upcoming months. A chance to fix a problem that has been an epidemic in this city that blights us all. So I'm asking you, I'm begging you to be part of the solution. If we raise our voices together, we can do this. And if we open our hearts, we can transform our city. Can you hear it, son? So may it be.